Hi, this is Scott with Spectre Gear, and for today's product spotlight, we're going to be taking a look at sling options for AK-47 and AK-74 type carbines and their various variants that are out there. And the first thing I should mention is that at Spectre Gear, we have a vast number of slings available for the AK-47 and AK-74 weapon systems, and we even take into account the different types of stock configurations that you may encounter or may own. For instance, from the pattern room, we went ahead and pulled some simulators out to give you an idea that we offer slings for the fixed stock, but even within that, the two different sizes of stock. So I'll get to that when I'm talking about the slings. We offer slings for the folding stock variant, and of course, the AK-47s and AK-74s, they have M4 type stock adapters, and we even offer different types of slings for different types of M4 collapsible stocks that you might put on that. So that alone there gives you kind of an idea of the scope and scale that we're talking about. But I will go through each one of our sling systems and show the different types of setups, and then you can see what they look like on your gun, how they interface with the gun, and what any potential things you may need to take into account in the purchase of the sling. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the Raptor 2-point sling. Okay, this is the first configuration that we're going to take a look at. This is going to be our conventional fixed stock variant. Before I get into that, let me first do a really quick recap on what the Raptor sling actually is. There is a detailed product video on this available and should be on the product page for this particular sling. However, I'll recap briefly. The Raptor sling is just a very simple, efficient 2-point sling design. The portion that goes across your shoulder, also known as the main strap, is an 1.25 inch wide conventional sling webbing. All the attachments are done via what's called a rear slider at the rear, so it makes it easier to transition the sling from right to left-handed configuration or take the sling off of the gun without having to take the adapter actually off of the gun. It in the center is an emergency release buckle in case you need to rapidly disengage from the sling. The adjustment strap is the same adjustment strap used for all of our 2-point sling configurations, and it's made from, I would give you the middle number for it, but the best way to describe it is it's pocket attachment ladder system webbing. Same type of webbing that's used on all of the MOLLE carriers out there for attaching MOLLE onto plate carriers and chest rigs and whatnot. The adjustment method for the 2-point portion of this is done via a friction lock, ladder lock type buckle with a sewn in handle or paddle. The connection at the front, and this will remain consistent throughout the 3 different variations I'm going to be talking about, but at the front of the sling here we have a 1-inch steel spring hook that interfaces with the loop that's on the front of your AK. So getting into how this particular setup works, for the conventional fixed stock, the buttstock attachment is done via a stirrup type rear adapter, and we have 2 different variations. Now this is what this is meant to replicate is a Type 56 Chicom type stock, but this adapter also works with the AKM stocks all the way up until, I believe it was the AK-102, was going to be the last of the Russian AK variants, but all of the small diameter AK stocks this fits. Now, if you happen to have an AK that has a particularly large diameter stock, and it stands out, you notice it right away. It looks kind of odd, actually, if you've looked at a lot of AKs. And that's going to be normally associated with Yugoslavian pattern guns, but there's some other ones out there. If you happen to have a large diameter stock like that, we have a second variant for the large diameter stock. So the choice you're going to have to make in purchasing this sling is whether you have a small or a large diameter stock, and that's pretty much it. Now, one thing to point out on this stirrup rear adapter, as with all of our slings, ambidextrous. So I'll go ahead and turn this over. And as you can see here, there's another loop on the off side of the buttstock. So if you had this set up with a left-handed configuration, you would just run your rear slider attachment strap through that loop right there, and you are good to go. So that's pretty much it for the fixed stock configuration. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one now. Okay, our next variant is the folding stock variant, whether it's an underfolder or a side folder. So long as you have a receiver mounted swivel you are good to go. And the sling would attach, of course, with the rear slider attachment strap at that rear swivel. And of course, at the front, you have the 1-inch spring hook attaching to the loop that's on the barrel at the gas tube portion. So that's really about it. Pretty simple. But again, the most important thing being that you have some form of side swivel at the rear of the receiver. Now, I also will state at this point that a lot of fixed stock AKs still have a swivel at the receiver portion, and you could set the same configuration up. You could just simply remove this from the um, stock adapter that you might have for the fixed stock, and if you want to try it out on the receiver itself, you can run that way. Some people happen to like to do that. I find it's a pretty efficient way for cross-shoulder transitions, but that's about all there is to say about this particular variant, so let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Okay, this is our last configuration, and this would be for AK variants that have the M4 type stock adapter. Now, there's a couple of ways you can go with this. What we're finding in terms of sales figures is that most people that are doing this are going with some kind of Magpul stock, but there are some folks that go with a conventional M4 stock, and we offer variants for both. And in fact, this setup has become so popular that the current Russian AK, the AK-12, features a setup very similar to this. But if you go with the Magpul variant, you won't receive any kind of a rear adapter. And all you simply do is just take the attachment strap from the rear slider and run it right through that vertical slot that's in the buttstock. If you happen to be purchasing a model for a conventional M4 type stock, we will also include this adapter that goes through the slot underneath the buffer tube recess here. And all that you do at that point is just run this attachment strap, or rather rear slider attachment strap underneath that, run it back, double it through, and you are good to go. Of the two, the preferred method, if I was asked for a recommendation, would obviously be go with Magpul stock. It's a little more efficient, but either configuration you have, we can easily cover that. So that kind of wraps it up, and that is all of the different AK-47 and AK-74 sling configurations that we have for the Raptor 2-point sling. I will mention at this point that these products, as well as all of our other products, are manufactured right here in the United States of America in Visalia, California. And if you're interested in learning more, you can get a hold of us at spectregear.com. And of course, in the video description, there will be links to all of these different sling configurations. So with that, I will say thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.